Food is eaten all around the world. It brings people together and is a basic necessity for all living things. Have you ever wondered, though, how some of the food we eat ends up in our lunchboxes? One of the best parts of the day is when you lift the lid of your lunchbox to see what's inside. Your parents have packed it with lots of tasty things to eat. They probably got all the food from a grocery store, but food doesn't grow in grocery stores. So where did it come from before it was in the store? The bread for your sandwich didn't just grow like this. It had to start from somewhere. A farmer planted seeds in spring, and by summer, they'd grown into tall, waving wheat with fat, ripe grains at the tip of every stalk. The farmer cut the wheat with a giant combine harvester and sent it to a flour mill. The miller ground the grains into flour, and trucks took the flour to a bakery. The baker mixed the flour with water, sugar, and yeast, kneaded it into a soft, squishy dough, and baked it in a very hot oven. Out came fresh loaves of bread, ready to send to the store. Take a bite of the bread in your sandwich. Crusty on the outside and soft in the middle. As you just saw, we depend on a lot of different people to make the bread. We depend on the farmer to plant the seeds, harvest the wheat for bread, and send it to a factory. At the factory, we depend on the factory worker to ground the wheat grains into flour and then pack the flour and send it on a truck. We depend on the truck driver to deliver the flour to a baker who then uses the flour to bake the delicious bread we eat at lunchtime. Not all food makes a stop at the factory. Some fruits and vegetables can be picked fresh from local farms and then bought at your local farmer's market or grocery store. Let's take a look at how tomatoes can end up in your lunchbox. Last summer, your tomatoes were growing in a big plastic tunnel full of tomato plants. The sun and the warmth made the plants grow tall and bloom with yellow flowers. As each flower died, a tiny green tomato fruit began to grow from its middle. Day by day, the plant sucked up water and the tomatoes swelled from green to orange to red. When bunches of ripe scarlet tomatoes dangled from the branches, the grower picked them. They sorted them, packed them, and sent them to the store. Pop one in your mouth and squish the sweet sour juice out. When it comes to tomatoes, we really depend on the farmers to plant, grow, and pick the tomatoes, and the people who sell the tomatoes at the farmer's market for us to buy and enjoy. Let's end our journey with a look at a sweet drink that we find in our lunchbox. Last spring, the apple trees in the orchard were full of flowers. In summer, tiny apple buds grew from each flower stalk. The buds kept growing, and by autumn the trees were full of ripe, sweet fruit. Pickers climbed into the trees and filled their bins with fruit. A truck took the bins to the juice factory, where sorters threw out any rotten apples. Then a machine washed the rest, and mashed them in a milling machine. A huge press squeezed the mash till all its juice ran out. A heater warmed up the juice to kill off any germs, and poured it into cartons. Suck hard on your straw to taste that apple tang. When it comes to apple juice, we depend on the farmers to tend to the apple trees, send the picked apples to a factory, where a factory worker mashes the apples and turns it into apple juice, puts it in its cartons where it can be delivered to a store and end up in your lunchbox. Let's recap where our food really does come from. We all think of our parents as superheroes who could do it all. But before their job of packing your lunch can take place, we realize that we depend on the farmers to grow and harvest the crops, factories, and factory workers to clean and package the food or even drinks and send them off in trucks where they can be sold at a local farmer's market or at a nearby grocery store where your superhero parents can go and buy that delicious food for your lunch. The next time you dig into your lunchbox, stop and think about who helped put all that delicious food in your lunchbox. And maybe it would be nice to appreciate those that work very hard to keep you and your body healthy and strong.